Friends, with your permission, I would like to begin today's seminar. And among us, one of the most illustrious person is Brigadier Chikara, sitting right here, who has been heading Netaji Subhash Chandra Trust, and he's chairman of that. And he has been keeping the candle burning even in low flame for the last several decades. And it is said that even if you cannot bring the fire to the peak, keep it at a small level, keep it alive. So one day, whenever there is a chance, it may become an inferno, it may become a big fire. That's what Chikaraji has been doing. But nevertheless, it's a great pleasure for me to chair a session of Professor Kapil Kumar, who remains Kapil to me for the last 30 years. And we have known each other, grown each other together as parallel, academically and also in age. So it's always a great pleasure, but at the same time, a lot of nervousness to chair friend session. One can understand that. Having said that, let me point out one thing that among all the disciplines that exist today in any field, I call history is one of the most cruel and ruthless discipline. Why I call it cruel and ruthless? Because this is the only discipline where the truth never dies. It always tries to come up even with little space. That's the beauty of it. You keep hiding away the truth, you keep hiding away the facts for decades together. But the moment it gets little space, it comes out like a giant. I don't know how many of you are interested and watch nature television. Have anybody seen that how a octopus goes out of a hair thin space? Because what happens is full of body is full of the liquid, and as it moves out, liquid keeps moving in, so huge body goes out. That's how discipline works. Even a little space provides the entire thing comes up. Professor Kapil Kumar's lecture deals precisely with these issues. How in the last 70 years this has been the case, that whoever has been power, whether it is you take Russia, you take Germany, you take Britain, you take Japan, you take China, winners write the history is the proverb, but they always forget that the winners will not be all. With its fact. And that is what Professor Kapil Kumar is going to talk to you. And I'm sure that at certain places, certain level, you will be shocked also. Shocked also because the kind of researches he is on for the last a decade, and I have been virtually on day-to-day basis on discussing these issues. You will be shocked because lot of things which you took as facts, you will discover today that they were made of facts. They were not the facts. They were, concocted facts. They were manufactured facts. Lot of history that we have read about Subhash Chandra Bose, about INA, is simply uh, what you can say history based on totally wrong things, not facts. Facts are never wrong. Nothing is written on wrong facts. Things are written simply wrong. Facts can never be wrong. And that's what I would not like to comment much on the subject, except that I would request Professor Kapil Kumar to talk on these unknown facts, suppressed facts, and rather bad things that have been used to write history. And always remember that whenever a concocted facts are used, this is used with complete maliciousness in the mind, because you don't want the person to be known correctly, you don't want to recognize the person correctly, and therefore you use these methodologies. I have been part of this battle. I mean, Meenakshi, we know that at least for the last 30 years we have been battling all this, that history should be written on the facts, because my always I say, that's line I repeat, when you talk in terms of facts of history, you don't live in history. Always remember that even when you talk about Muslim history, we talk about British history, does not mean that we are reviving history or we are trying to live in history. No, we must learn to live with history. Whatever is our past, we must learn to live with it. And that's what India needs to be done rather than hiding away the truth. If you recall, Bengal issued during Jyoti Basu's time issued a article called Shuddho and Ashuddho. So in the books it was written that Muslims demolish temples. So it was in Ashuddho. Shuddha kya rahega? Don't talk about demolition of the temples. That is what, as a historian, I resent that this should not be the case. And today, Professor Kapil Kumar will be talking exactly on such issues confined to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and INA Army. And I'm quite sure that he is going to talk about certain totally unknown facts to the extent that if India is free today, surely he will quote Italy, what he said in India, and also he will be talking in detail, volume 6 of Transfer of Power, which tells how you got the freedom, not other volumes. So with these words, I invite Professor Kapil Kumar, because I have restrained myself to speak on the topic, but it's his privilege today. With this, sir.
Thank you.
Mic is yours.
Professor Makhanlal. Thank you, Professor Makhanlal. Thank you, my friends, for being here and joining on the web also. Jai Hind to all of you. And Professor Makhanlal's brief but very pertinent introductory comment made me remember something 3-4 days back, which happened on a TV channel when the news was coming that Putin is a war criminal. And with great emphasis, the channels were doing it. And I was standing in one of the debates. I said, well, let us go a little back in history. And before we declare Putin as a criminal, war criminal, I think that the first war criminal who should be declared should be the President of the United States, who ordered the invention of atom bomb in this world and who ordered the dropping of the atom bomb on the innocents in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The world can't go one way, you see. Why I'm saying this precisely, that when we apply these things to small events, as Professor Makhanlal has said, how I got interested in this particular theme of the trials of INA, while going through the Khosla Commission report, which is a big hoax, and I am surprised how that man remained a judge at that level. I came across the cross-examination of one Colonel Ramchandra Rao, who was Netaji's physician. And he was present on that 17th August in Saigon when Netaji flew in the plane. This man was arrested, and from the Jigar Kacha camp, he was sent to the Multan prison, from where he was released in December 1948. And when he crosses the Indian border at Wagah in January 1949, he is arrested by Indian police. The charge is he has stolen a bicycle. And from 49 January till 72 July, August, he is kept in prisons in Andhra Pradesh and Bhubaneswar without any trial. And when the Khosla Commission sits in Bhubaneswar, he comes in chains and handcuffs to give his testimony to the Khosla Commission. And what was this man's fault? This Dr. Colonel, highly qualified, had stated that the plane flew. But after 20 minutes, that plane landed back on the official Japanese Air Force strip. Netaji came out and his clothes, etc. were given to the person of the Hikari Kikan, pilot who had volunteered for that flight. And some items were given. And the plane flew back. And Netaji stayed there in Saigon for 4 days. His BP was high. Being a doctor, I couldn't help him. I had no machine to measure his BP. And after 4 days, Netaji left by submarine. In the cross-examination, this person was asked, do you have any evidence to support your? He said, all my stuff was taken by the highest authority in India. He was asked, can you name this highest authority? He said, I am in this condition. Don't further put me into trouble. And then the lawyer cross-examining him very suddenly asked, did you hand over these items at Tinmurti House or in South Block? And again this person said, my answer remains the same. Then this person was asked, who took you to the highest authority? And he named Sanjeeva Reddy and Biju Patnaik. Let's not forget here, Biju Patnaik was the pilot who flew the British planes against the INA on the borders of Assam, throwing that leaflets asking the INA soldiers to join back the British forces. The Dakota still stands somewhere in Calcutta. Anyway, and he was kept in those prisons only, in Andhra and in this place. So this generated my interest. What's happening? And then I was shocked that before the Red Fort trial started, between 42 to 45, many executions had taken place of the INA personnel. And if I categorize these, in fact, later on they categorized them as black, grey and white. Black most dangerous, grey less dangerous, the white can be released and all. But if I try to categorize these trials, one is those who were arrested or captured in the war fronts at Burma and Imphal. And in most of these cases, many of them, no trial, no court-martial, straight away hanged or shot. This is those people who talk of civil liberties and who talk of international Geneva conventions and who talk of handling the prisoner of wars. This is what they did. The second is the arrest of enemy agents under the Enemy Agents Act. That those who are all caught for spying, they use the word Japanese, they never use the word INA. Because they never wanted the Indian people to know that there is something like INA. They called it JIF, Japanese Indian Fighting Force. This is the word used. And they fooled the whole leadership of this country and the people of this country, so much so that he is coming back and he is going to replace British imperialism with Japanese imperialism in India. That our great leader Nehru also said that I will go with a sword and in my hand and I'll fight Subhash if he comes with the Japanese. And he's touring Assam at that time, urging the people in Assam to mobilize against the INA. Because there were events which has happened. I was surprised to see this report. I'm just forgetting the name of this woman. This woman with 50 of her girls formed a Rani Jhansi regiment and moved with these 50 towards Manipur to join the INA from Assam. I'll give the name. The name is there. No. वो छोड़िए जी, सहगल तो क्या बात करते हैं, वो मैं स्टोरी कहना नहीं चाहता सहगल जी की, लक्ष्मी सहगल जी की. And all these 50, 51 of these were shot dead by the British before they could reach Assam. Women from Assam. Very small reference of 2 lines, 3 lines only in that ICHR volume is there. I'm looking more into those details and all. More than 13 submarine spying missions came to India, which landed at Konark Coast, Chilka Lake, Saurashtra, down south, what is that called, Nileshwar Coast, near Karachi. And many of them were caught. Of course, one of the prime reasons of their being caught is our traditional speciality of Indians of being a traitor, right from the olden times. And they were, which we have many of them today also. And no, it's a hard fact, you see. No country has ever won India without traitors from our side. So, within that, they were caught, they were tried, executed. I'll come to those cases. Then there are cases of those arrested in Singapore, Burma, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, etc. First kept in prisons there and then brought to India and to be tried here. And one thing one must note here, that why it was decided to try them here and keep them in the Red Fort and Salimgarh Fort. Even you go to the Red Fort, there is a Baudi there, and which has small rooms over there, and in those were made as cages and they were kept over there. That was the personal vengeance of Lord Wavell and Mountbatten, because Netaji's call was Delhi Chalo. The call was Lal Kile pe Jhanda Pherana. Hum Delhi, Delhi jayenge. All these songs of which are there. And this call had so much so impact that when they were withdrawing from Impal, these Tamil coolies who were converted into a battalion, when they are ordered for retreat, the Tamil coolie answers, Shah Nawaz has given in his book, हम साहब पीछे नहीं जाएगा. नेताजी बोला दिल्ली जाना, दिल्ली आगे, सिंगापुर पीछे. That was the spirit. So to humiliate not only the INA or Netaji, but to show the Indians that those who dreamt of flying the tricolor at Red Fort, we will do this to them in Red Fort. And don't forget that Red Fort was the place where the first trial of sedition against the king was held in 1858 of Bahadur Shah Zafar. And Netaji had paid respect to Bahadur Shah Zafar in Rangoon. He had given 50,000 rupees also there to the Burmese government to rebuild that up over there. So it was a sheer vengeance. And another factor of vengeance was that Azad Hind Sarkar and Azad Hind Fauj, the only government and the only army in the world after the victory of Second World War, these allied forces, who never surrendered to the allied forces. Never surrendered to the allied forces. The last orders were, we disband to regroup. These were the orders of Netaji. And that regrouping is being done and all, which is a part of project, maybe in another paper I'll come to it. Who?
I think the question answered, then it will be interrupt. I would request everybody not to interrupt the lecture, please. Go ahead.
So,
because this is not...
And not only that, in no history of the world we have ever seen that the Martyrs' Memorial is dishonored. And Mountbatten not only dishonored it, he got the Martyrs' Memorial in Singapore blasted by dynamite. Salute to the people of Indian origin there, who still went every day and offered flowers there. And that stone, foundation stone laid by Netaji, was given to Nehru. We don't know where it is today. In fact, I just asking yesterday, I have it in their Toshikana because it has disappeared. The flag which was hoisted at Moirang by Colonel Malik was handed over to Nehru. It disappeared. No one knows where they are. Anyway, coming back to the trials aspect. So it was with this vengeance. And another aspect, please remember, why Saigal Dhillo Shahnawaz? At a time, particularly in 1945, when the communal strife is so strong, the demand for Pakistan is so strong. And here the British, they are not fools. They are testing the unity of the Indian people once again by putting up a Hindu, a Sikh, and a Muslim officer. And I tell you, the amount of nationalist feeling in support of these that erupted in the country right from Peshawar to Kerala at that time, we have no parallel of that in the history of Indian freedom struggle except that of 1857. No Gandhian movement, no movements led by all of these things ever generated so much of strong. And the slogan you all know was Lal Kile se aayi awaaz, Saigal Dhillo Shahnawaz. But there was another slogan also which was suppressed by the Congress leadership. That slogan was Lal Kila tod do, Azad Hind Fauj chhod do. That was another slogan which was never made, in the public domain and all. It never came over there. Then there was another category of soldiers who were captured on the European front. The Indian Legion worked with the Azad Hind Sarkar as part of the Azad Hind Fauj, who were captured in Germany, France, and among those, 1,500 of these soldiers near the German-Swiss border, a small township on Lake Cascade, were kept in a picture hall for 2 days without food, without water, and all 15 or 100 of them were shot dead. No history book in India tells that. In fact, of Captain Jadhav having written that in the history of INA, which he wrote into that. Never taken into account. Then there are tortures and killings in the camps which are described as suicides. And one laughs at it. Captain Amar Singh's case, Ajmer Singh's case in Delhi. He is described as having committed suicide by snatching the gun of the pistol of the guard and shooting himself. A person whom you have kept in cages with handcuffs and all those things will snatch the gun from the guard and shoot himself. Whom are the British fooling? And our leadership is accepting that. No protest from our leadership over such reportings of suicide and all. And why, I'll come to that a little later. Then it seemed totally ignored that these arrests and all were not in India only, but a reign of terror was unleashed in Burma, Thailand, Malaya, Philippines, Japan, Brunei, Vietnam. Vietnam, there was some safety. Java. Any Indian who remotely supported the Azad Hind Sarkar was hunted, imprisoned, tortured, and we have those accounts of them. You will not believe 6 persons in Thailand were declared criminals of the United Nations. Can you believe it? How come they become criminals of the United Nations? A person like Raghunandan Sharma or Sardar Ishar Singh and all, just because Sardar Ishar Singh has given 100 kg of silver to INA, he becomes a war criminal of the United Nations. These kind of things happen. And again, the worst thing is that these loyalist Indians are sent from there, India, as a part of the British occupying forces, to torture the Indians and loot the Indians. It's a shame. There's another category, which I'm so shocked. One dark night of November in Neelganj, a camp near Calcutta. In fact, till now I have been able to discover 21 camps and jails where INA people were kept. They were earlier only talking of Red Fort and 2-3 more. Bahadurgarh and this and that, others were knocked out. In Neelganj, in one night, and I think no massacre in Indian history can be compared with this massacre, about 1,700 INA soldiers and officers are shot dead. The Jallianwala firing also, I think, stopped after a few minutes when the bullets were over. This firing went on whole night. People were brought out from their cages, shot. And the outside villagers who heard these shots, who heard these cries, were told that we had arrested dacoits and these dacoits were turning to run away. So we have killed them. And in the morning, the bodies were disposed of in the river, and some put into a graveyard. And our great Indian government, instead of making a monument or something over there, put up a jute factory museum over there and removed all the signs also of any massacre or any camp over there. And the Indian leadership, because they were busy at that time negotiating dominion status for the country on tables in Shimla and Delhi with the British government. None of them raised their voice on this massacre which took place in Neelganj of these prisoners who were to be... You would have tried them, you could have court-martialed them, you could have done anything. But the whole night killing of these people. In Calcutta, when the students come out and protest, and certain American soldiers are attacked, the total number of students killed comes to more than 56. And again, the very interesting part is that irrespective of communities, the Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, everyone joins over there. And the secretary of the Muslim League is so much disturbed that he goes there to Islamia College, whose students had participated in these protests, and lectures them to keep themselves away from these protests. And as per the military intelligence report of the Eastern Command, he says, how can we support INA? Had Bose come to India, what would have happened to our Pakistan demand? And contrary to that, the Secretary of Hindu Mahasabha issues a statement in Calcutta. Don't even try to touch the finger of these INA soldiers. Else there will be bloodbath in the country, because most of them had joined the INA at the behest of Savarkar. That's another story. The connection between INA and Savarkar, I can take up some other time into this kind of situation. So, when all this was happening, I have all data with me, names also. 28 persons who landed from submarines were tried in Delhi. 23 were tried in Madras and 4 in Calcutta. The punishments ranged from death sentences to transportations. But there's and so are the cases of those who entered by land on the eastern side, and some paratroopers also. You believe that certain paratroopers of INA also had landed in India and established stations over there. And right from 42 itself, when the first platoon of Punjab regiment crossed over to the INN Arakan front. British were not only alarmed, but they started looking at the legalities and all that. And that's the time changes were made in the Enemy Agents Act. Changes were made in the Defense of India rules. And all such technicalities that if he has crossed over to that, whether he should be tried as a deserter, whether he should be tried for sedition against the king when caught, whether he should be taken as a prisoner of war of the other government, all these debates, huge files are there in the National Archives. And in many cases, what they are trying to do, all those we have captured back, they torture them. And they want to tutor them that you become again our spies, go back to the INA camp, say that you have escaped from the British thing and spy for us. Which again they say is a failure because none of them is agreeing to that kind of a situation over there. Another very interesting thing of this period is I unearthed the CIA report. It's called CIA report because it was put in 47, though CIA came later, it was known some other agency before that. The report is on German agents in India. German agents in Asia. And that has 100 pages on India. And any nationalist in this country who is opposing the British is listed as a German agent by the CIA in that. This includes names like Swami Sajanand Saraswati, N.G. Ranga, Raj Yajnik, Jayaprakash Narayan, Lohiya, and all. Starting, why these names and all this? It came to know they all belong to the forward bloc. And though it's another theme, but let me say that the entire 42 movement was carried by the forward bloc people. Socialists, the forward bloc people. Oh, there. But these rules are being changed. And then they're also discussing, you see, that way I find these Britishers are very thorough in these matters. All these who are being tried secretly, when it should be known that they were tried and they are being executed and this punishment is there, and the decision taken is that it should be taken case-to-case basis, where it is in our interest to publicize this trial earlier, we should publicize it earlier, and when it is in our interest to first execute the persons and then publicize so many executed, we do that. And that is what they did. All those who were shot in the camps or tried on the Manipur borders and all, their bodies were never handed over to the relatives or family members. Forget handing over the bodies. Even the relatives were never informed about that they have been shot or they have been killed by the British in that sense. And at the same time, all efforts are being made to generate evidence among the INA people itself, to influence their parents, brothers, sisters in villages, letters written by commanders to them. Tell your son he should give evidence against INA in the trials. They all refuse. And those whom they suspect will be defense witnesses, they are being shunted to their villages. I have orders and orders in the files with me. It's unfortunate that our historians have failed to see all this literature, all these documents and all which are there in the archives for so many years. If this man is a suspect, he might be used by Bhulabhai Desai as an evidence against us, shunted to his village like a 10 numbari, and told the local police station that he has to come there and give his attendance every day like a 10 numbari. And he should not be allowed to go out of the village. These are the kind of tactics which they used at that time. There's a very interesting case. In September 47, mind it, September 47, by that time India and Pakistan have both become dominions. A case was tried in Singapore. there is a Christmas Island on which in 42 the Indian soldiers had killed the British officers. So after that, when they are caught, they are tried and the sentence awarded is hanging. But that time, John Thivi, the INA person in Singapore, he raises a technical point. He said, these are Indian citizens. You can't do to them like this. So then the question comes, okay, now to India is divided. What to do? So letters are sent both to the Prime Minister of Pakistani Dominion and the Premier of Indian Dominion. And there's a very interesting letter written by the Secretary of the first Governor General of Indian Dominion, Mountbatten, to this prosecuting agency in Singapore. The Governor General has discussed the matter with the Premier of Indian Dominion, Nehru, who says that he regrets that these people have to face this punishment. But he will not oppose it. This is September 47. And on the contrary, Pakistan government vehemently opposes it. And Mountbatten goes to the extent of pleading that this is a case prior to the formation of Pakistan. So Pakistan government's opinion is not needed, it hang them. But Pakistan fights it out. And you know that the London people there at that time had a very soft corner for Pakistan and Muslim League. And well, I'll not gauze them as Hindus and Muslims, but these all 5 soldiers happen to be Muslims. So ultimately they were released. And this is Nehru's secularism, who talks of Muslims and Muslims, that he was not even prepared to save 5 Muslim soldiers of the INA who had been put to hanging in this regard. Then this Red Fort trials. Not only in Red Fort trials, but all such trials which were taking place in country in different parts, the judgments were predetermined. The Transfer of Power, Volume 6, makes it absolutely clear what the judgment is going to be. It has been discussed between the Commander-in-Chief and the Viceroy. And some of the Congress leaders have been also taken into confidence, which these documents show. If you look at the reports of different lieutenant governors to the Viceroy on this issue, they're very interesting reports. The Northwest Frontier Province's Lieutenant Governor clearly says that these cases should be dropped immediately. Otherwise, there will be revolt. And the kind of problems I am seeing in India today, I have never seen India in my entire career of service till now. And he makes a very other interesting point also. He names a Congress leader who said to him, why in the hell you people brought these people to India for trials? You could have done away with them there in Burma or Malaya only. Why you created a problem here for us? Because many of the congressmen, I can name it, Rajgopalachari-like persons, were never in favor of anything to be given to INA. Forget the trials and all, even the relief. The INA Relief Committee. And on the other hand, when you look at it, Akhille, the Commander-in-Chief, has made 2-3 very interesting statements. And these statements are based on the intelligence reports, because the Eastern Command, military intelligence, was given the task to get a fortnightly intelligence report of all army, air force, navy units in India of the British, and not only the armed ones, but even the civilians working in it. And if you read these reports, astonishing. One report is of November 45 from Calcutta, that in the Calcutta Gurdwara, on Gurpura, there are about 30,000 people. And this CID person, military intelligence person, says he's aghast to see that along with the Guru Granth Sahib, Netaji's photograph is there. Because he says the Sikhs never allow anything to be kept near it. And then there are songs of Azad and Fauj, Sarad Bose addresses. But for him, the most crucial part was that more than 3,000 Sikh officers and soldiers serving British in the army were present in that Gurdwara on that occasion. There are reports, Indian soldiers have started saying Jai Hind to the British officers. They are court-martialed. There are reports that serving Indian in army, air force, navy are sending huge donations to the relief committee for the defense trial, for other purposes related to that. There are situations, even INS Talwar, so the royal, they call it mutiny, I don't call it mutiny, we use the word for it. It happened in February 46, but since November 45, the slogans were coming on that ship, anti-British. And this was the ship which had brought the INA people from Singapore Pearl prison when they were kept there. 2 ships of INA soldiers and officers were sunk in the seas. No records, no mention. The accidental mention comes in a biographical note of an INA person who says that from the Pearl prison, we refused to board the ships because 2 ships had been sunk. But then we got a letter from Nehru assuring us that nothing will happen, you board the ships and come to India. When the trials of these people were being held in Burma, etc., the people of Indian origin, I'm so unfortunate that their, contributions have been totally removed away from the pages of history. Because no army in the world could raise so much funds in 6 months' time, which came to INA. I'm not going into details because I have put all these details in my book recently published. Not going to do those details. And the kind of support these people gave. And these were the people minded. Particularly the youngsters among them, who had never seen India, who had never visited India, who had heard only stories about India from their Aja or Aji or from their grandparents. And just listening that and one call of Netaji, if a 16-year-old girl wants to join the Rani Jhansi regiment and she's locked in the house from the first story and she can jump at 1 in the night and running come to the Rani Jhansi camp that I want to be recruited, you can imagine the impact of nationalism and all which was there at that time. But these people were forgotten, sidetracked. It's a different matter that for different reasons they were arrested, they remained in prisons, they were tortured. Ultimately, the British had to relieve them. But this is, sir, you can tell me how much time because this is something one can 10 minutes more. Okay. Now, the whole country, and even till today, our younger generation is fooled that once the Red Fort trials were over, everything was over. Blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. 3rd January, the trials end. 10th January, a train starts from Jigarkacha camp in Bengal. A military special with 1,029 INA people on that listed as blacks. And the destination of the train was Multan. Until date, we don't know what happened to those people in Multan after 15th August 1947. Particularly the Hindus, and 6 among these soldiers. This question came up of 4 prisoners immediately. They were to be tried because the charge made on them was a war crime of killing or murdering someone. One among them was a Muslim. So Muslim League got all the opportunity to commonize the issue by saying that Dhillo has been left and Sehgal has been left and all, but this major is not left and all that, to raise a kind of hue and cry on that. Most important part is that between 46 July, I think, after the elections, until 47, twice these resolutions are moved in the Legislative Assembly for the release of INA prisoners. First time when it is moved, the interim cabinet and all, it is passed in the Assembly, but Lord Wavell vetoes it. And you will be shocked to hear this, that when Mountbatten comes, Nehru tells Mountbatten, we kept this veto of Lord Wavell as a secret from the Indian public. Because had this gone out in the public, that the Viceroy has vetoed this release of INA prisoners, there would have been disturbances in the country. So whom you want to shield? You want to be pelly-pelly with the British. And then Govind Malviya moves it again in 47 for their release. Very interesting dates are there. I think I'm very bad at dates, but I think 3rd April it is to come into the Assembly for discussion. And on 2nd April, a meeting is held between Mountbatten, Auchinleck, the Commander-in-Chief, and there's one more British official. And from this side, it is Nehru, Defense Minister, what's his name? Sardar Baldev Singh, and Liaquat Ali, the Finance Minister. Nehru doesn't take Sardar Patel in this. Because Sardar Patel has totally advocated that INA should be reinstated in the Indian Army, which Nehru vehemently opposed. And there a compromise is reached that these remaining cases will be given to a tribunal. And what decision the tribunal gives, then that will be examined by the army commander and governor general and whatever it is, and a decision taken to that. And Nehru assures that I will see to it that this resolution is withdrawn tomorrow in the Legislative Assembly. And Nehru gives a long speech praising INA, and at the same time also saying that not everyone in INA was good. There are bad people also and there are good people also. But those who fought for the country, for them these kind of words being used. And then he says we are giving it to the tribunal and the Commander-in-Chief has agreed and this and that, and in the light of that, I request you to withdraw this resolution, and the resolution is withdrawn. But a very interesting thing happens. Now 15th August is declared as the day of what's called No, sir. Don't use the word independence. India never became independent on 15th August, and I can challenge any historian in the country or in the world who says that India got independence on 15th August 1947. It was only a transfer of power, and two dominions were created. Please see the newspapers also of that time. Nehru is writing in July again to Mountbatten. Now leave them at least. Because a popular garment I won't be able to run, and it will become very difficult for me to show my face to the people if they are not released. Mountbatten says, the tribunal report is awaited. It will come on 25th July. And again there is a letter of 2nd August by Nehru. And again there is a meeting then. And what Mountbatten says, 15th August is coming. So you can release that. And what is the formula worked out, sir? Achille says, because he is the chief commander, I will reduce their term of punishment so that the general terms which have been decided of freeing those prisoners and criminals from the jails, अगर किसी ने कोई 2 साल की सजा थी, 5 साल की सजा थी, छोटे मोटे क्राइम थे, उनको हम लोग उस दिन रिलीज कर देंगे, so that they match that category and they can be released. And it was agreed that when they will be released, there will be no processions to welcome them. There will be no meetings organized to welcome them. What an honor this would-be Prime Minister of Indian Dominion gave to INA by putting them equal to criminals in the country. And no processions and no meetings in their welcome. So many other things are there. One can go on adding to this. Nehru's attitude is reflected from one more factor. In 48, when the Indo-Pak war is there, all the provincial prime ministers write to him. CMs, who were called prime ministers at that time, call back the INA. They have been out of fight, they will fight now. And what Nehru writes back to the CMs? Make them home guards. Or give them position in the railway corps which is being made. But more important, and don't keep them all in one unit. What is this scare? This is the scare for freedom. Where Auchinleck says that 1857 type situation has emerged. And if we have to stay in India, we will have to recapture India. And for that, I will need 1 lakh European soldiers. And there are 2 thick files in the archives, how these European soldiers are to be deputed in India, because they can't do it openly. So war is on in Indonesia, so they say that they are in transit. We'll do that. And on the basis of that, Wavell writes back home, we must reach a compromise and come to an agreement, or else there will be a movement much more stronger than 1942, which we shall not be able to control. And please understand one thing. 42, no program was given by Gandhi or Congress for the people. It was only do and die. It was Bose who had given the program for 1942 through his broadcast from Berlin on 17th August and 31st August, where the complete program was given. And if you compare that program with the qualifications, with the actions of the people of that time, you will see what was happening. And don't forget that the first thing Congress leadership did after coming out of prisons was to condemn 1942. Their old thing. Even on Udham Singh, you know what is the Congress resolution? It is the act of a madman, and it won't affect our negotiations. So there's plenty, and I'm not saying this is the end. And last incident I'll quote now, and I'll finish at that. There's a famous trial of 5 persons in Calcutta. That is the trial of Pavitra Mohan Roy, Netaji's Director of Intelligence, H.M. Mitra, the father of this present Amit Mitra, Minister in Bengal, Somarendra Gupta, Mohinder Singh Gill, Amrik Singh Gill, Colonel Amrik Singh Gill, who had landed at the Konark coast by submarine, who were successful in establishing wireless stations in India, in Calcutta, in Dhaka, in Jalandhar, all these places. But they were given up by one of their own who had come with them in the submarine, Tulin Mukherjee. Tulin Banerjee, I think, Tulin Mukherjee. And this Tulin Mukherjee, well, it's a big family now in Bengal anyway. So, they were arrested and tried in 45. 28th June, the trial starts. And within 2 days, the judgment comes on 30th June. Executions. All were kept at Lord Sinha Road CID office, tortured there and all. During this trial, an attempt is made, the lawyer comes to them to write apologies. And all of them refuse apologies. The other four had come by submarine. H.M. Mitra was there, Bela Bose's husband. So Bela Bose belonged to Netaji's family. Later on, Bela Mitra married H.M. Mitra. She had married H.M. Mitra. And they refused to sign that. And in that context, after the executions are awarded, they are being transferred to another jail. They wanted to keep them somewhere safe in Chittagong before they are going to hang them in Presidency Jail. So they were being deported from Sialda station, from where Colonel Amrik Singh escaped. And he could never be caught, in spite of all efforts by the British to hunt him. He remained in Bengal, he remained in Calcutta and all that. And later on, as a frustrated man, he went back to Malaysia, saying that this is what we had not fought for. But Bela Bose had escaped. She had gone to Puri. And from there, she wrote to Gandhi. They do something at least that they are not executed. And this is very interesting this time. I think Gandhiji had learnt his lessons from the Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru time. Being accused of he could have saved them and he didn't save them. This time Gandhiji writes 2 letters to Wavell. And ultimately, their executions are converted into life imprisonment. And they're done with it. So the death sentences were converted. They went to that. And I have with me now the list I have developed of the names and all soldiers, officers, etc., who were executed before 45. Hanged in Lahore, hanged in Madras, shot in Delhi, cantonment. One is still searching more on that. I'm sure more names are going to come up. Unfortunately, we don't get the names of unless our military records are open to us. Because many files related to INA, etc., whether they are IB files or they are military intelligence files and all, they're still not open to us. But once they are open to us, one will be able to make the list of these martyrs, or all this, make it as a complete list, because INA was an army of 66,000, of which about 27,000 perished. And so it's an ongoing process. It's just a beginning. I hope more young scholars come forward, because now we are towards our fag end of research, but pick up on such issues related to INA. Netaji had formed a full medical corps. Dr. Ravi Kastiwal headed it. I have been able to locate the documents of that medical corps. What he proposed, what he did at that time. His son is a cardiologist, head cardiologist in Vedanta these days. With it. And there are many ample themes like this for research. I wish that serious scholars come forward and to do this research. And lastly, I will say, as Professor Makhanlal said in the beginning, that you can't kill history. You can distort, you can suppress, but today, history is speaking, and history is speaking loud. And before I answer, I'll give you answer of one thing which you had said in the beginning. Chaliye questions. We leave it. Thank you very much, Jain.
Well, no, he will answer.
Very
I
crucial
do.
question.
If he doesn't answer, I will answer.
It's very
Don't
crucial.
worry. Friends, as I had mentioned to you, what Professor Kapil Kumar has been on for the last few decades, unearthing suppressed realities of history. And today you must have seen, heard, that most of the things he talked about have not been heard even, leave alone written, leave alone part of the history books, or even least mentioned in the textbooks. Uh, it is unfortunate that in Indian freedom struggle, where the participation was maximum at the folk level, at non-Congress level, has been ignored. After the India got freedom, efforts were made to make it as if Congress won the freedom. And as the time passed, Congress also got into oblivion as if it was won by one family. It's now high time. We need to do more research. INA has been an amazing story, and I have read several times, volume 6 of Transfer of Power, and just see the kind of correspondence that is going on with Viceroy Lord Wavell and the British Crown, where Lord Wavell very clearly, and so also Auchinleck, who was chief commander, living in this very same building, epitomizing everything, that we cannot rule India at all. On whose strength we have been ruling, it is all over. However, one of the most painful things has been those who fought for the nation, 56,000 army, anywhere in the world, 26,000 were killed. 50% of the fighting army has never been killed in any country. This is the only example where 50% of your army was killed in the battlefield. There the people are made prisoner and they are ignored not only by the government, but they have been made to be ignored by the general public by wiping away the memory. That is important. Always remember, when we were talking about, I came in contact with somebody wonderful person, though in completely different context. I was corresponding with a grand old lady of Pakistan, and we were interested in certain Urdu literature, and I wanted copyright from her, which she gave. But after that, she came to know that I am a historian. We started talking, and later on, what I discovered is she is daughter. She retired as, remember, she retired as finance secretary of the Pakistan government. Finance secretary, Pakistan government, same as IASCN. And she is Parveen Qadir Aga. So once I wrote her, by the way, in any way, are you connected with Colonel Hassan Qadir? She writes me back that I am his elder daughter. And who was Colonel Hassan Qadir? Hold your breath. He was the army commander in INA, and also he was the minister in exile government. And since then we started corresponding. We are in constant touch, and she sent the book. She sent the book on Hassan Qadir, and you will not believe that in Pakistan, all the soldiers were incorporated in army to the extent that Hassan Qadir's elder brother, who was also in INA, he retires as Vice Chief of Pakistan Army, and Hassan Qadir retires as Chief of Corps. They say NCC and all the Civil Defense Corps.
Civil Defense.
So that kind of honor was given in Pakistan, but
No,
here it was
Ehsan
there.
Kadir refused to apologize. He would have gone much higher.
Having said that, I open this for discussion if you have any question, but I will suggest that you take up his question first. He is very eager that your question
you
was,
see, the question was that why did Netaji, if he didn't die in the plane crash,
why did he disappear?
why didn't he come back?
No.
Russia was the destination, very clear. And I tell you one thing, I have very closely examined all the three commission reports. Shenawaz, Khosla, and Justice Mukherjee. Because Justice Mukherjee said that there was no plane crash, and that's why it was withdrawn from the parliament by the UPA government. I have examined the Tashkent government's report, Taiwan government's report. I have examined the C4 reports, intelligence reports, and many other things. Now, all this story of plane crash is based only on hearsay of the doctor, of Habibur Rahman, some others. They accept this hearsay. But the other version which is there, by many others, not only Captain Ramchandra Rao, there was an inspector of Sanyal in Calcutta police who gave this statement. I was a guard at the PO's camp of Japanese in Singapore. And two Japanese soldiers told him that this is humbug, this plane crash theory. They were present there when he left by submarine. So Samar Gua asked a question on this in the parliament. And the government gave the answer, yes, we certify that this man was a guard of the Japanese POs. But we will not believe his statement because he did not appear before the Shanawaz Commission. And almost after a week or 10 days, he was killed, this inspector, and his cut head was found outside his head, outside his house. Chitta Vasu, a forward bloc MP, who announces in Russia that I have found some documents and I will release them in a press conference in Calcutta. I am coming back to India. Come back to India, takes a train from Delhi to Calcutta, never reaches Calcutta, his body is found on the railway track. Anyway, Netaji, why not coming? I'll give you an example. I am very clear and I have now plenty evidence to prove that he was reorganizing the INA in Russia. And at the same time, the INA, people who had reached India back, they were reorganizing in India. I can give you ample proof to that when it comes to that is my project I'm working on, in fact. In between, what happened? Netaji was fighting for a united India. He was not fighting for partition. He opposed it. Netaji was fighting for complete independence. He was not fighting for dominion status. The Congress leadership reached this agreement of partition and dominion status, which threw Netaji totally off. This is my analysis. Now, who should he come and fight? He'll find his own people. You look at the letter written by the Naroji's granddaughter, Gandhi's PA, to Louis Fisher in 46 March. If Subhash comes back with Russian support, neither Gandhi nor Congress will be able to stop him. If Nehru knew that Netaji was dead, then why was the entire Bose family being snooped upon till so long? On that thing. There are many things. I put it in my book, those details. But last thing on this is Netaji, don't forget he was a very spiritual person. The impact of Ramakrishna on him, the impact of Vivekananda on him, the impact of Kali on him. And don't forget that Aurobindo also became a spiritual leader after his revolutionary activities. And we have many such instances from Bengal. Later revolutionaries became that. Even in, so Netaji, once आपका एम चला गया दुनिया में, टूट गया आपका सपना, अब क्या करेंगे?
Right, beautifully, but one small point I will add. Netaji alive or dead? He has answered. But let me make one thing very clear. Extensive researches, cross-examination of examination of documents have proved one thing conclusively. There was no plane crash in the area, at the airport, or any other country on the day Subhash Chandra Bose is supposed to be died in the plane crash. So that thing should begin from there. And anyway, your curiosity, independence on 15th August. Independence on 15th August. No. You become independent. No, hold on. I have not completed the sentence. No, it's not name. Sir,
Sir,
no.
it is not independence and we'll prove
No,
it from
it is,
actions
hold
of
on.
Nehru government.
Arey, it is not, sir, hold on. It's not name. It's issue of the documents and facts. What you are saying is dominion of a status. That's what the documents say. Accession documents which were prepared by Lord Mountbatten for this, they will join not independent India or independent Pakistan. They will join dominion of India and dominion of Pakistan. Pandit Nehru, even after going back of Lord Mountbatten, writes to Queen, I should be permitted. I am recommending the name of Rajgopalachari to be appointed as Governor General of Dominion of India. Seek your permission. ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स की बात है, किसके नाम पे लिखा जा रहा है ऐसा नहीं. लेट अस क्लोज दिस बिकॉज दिस इज अनएंडिंग थिंग एंड आई एम श्योर दैट मेनी अदर पीपल
No, that time. Sir, it is not a practice.
It's a document. Sir, what? Hold on.
Australia does not. So it is.
I as a chair close this discussion. We can talk on this because I would like to give others if we have they have the question. Meenakshi ji.
हाँ, 5 बजे है ना बेटा?
क्वेश्चन लो.
बेटे मैं इस समय कॉन्फ्रेंस में हूँ, मुझसे 10 मिनट बाद पूछिएगा. जी, any other question?
I just have an observation.
जी.
The amount of evidence that you have presented is mind-boggling. But what amazes me is that how this evidence has survived, because you have quoted archival records. And since, according to you, the government was all the time trying to fudge and hide facts, how did all this archival material survive?
Well, I'll give credit for this one-to-one director in archives, Director General, Mr. Sarkar was there, who from different departments and all put up the INA papers at one place. That credit is one. Secondly, I don't think they were bothered ever about it, because research in Indian universities was hegemonized. So you tell me till date, how many PhDs have been done on INA, on Netaji theme and all that? The moment you talk of 1857 or you talk of Netaji, you will be shunned away. Today only I have recorded a talk for tomorrow on Kumar Singh. Discovered a letter of July 1856, planning for 1857. I think I am the only historian who has been arguing this, that 1857 was being planned for last 4 years. And I am giving the names of those who were planned as Manikram Diwan, Azimullah, Nana Sahab, Rani Jhansi, Nawab of Banda, Bejabai of Gwalior. These were the people. And this letter of this thing says, Kumar Singh, there's another letter, 1844, to fight the British. And it says that in the Sonpur Mela, all the Rajwadas gather over there. There the decision is taken that he will form an army of 10,000 and go and attack Lahore. And why Lahore? Because that will help in the Anglo-Sikh war, the Sikhs. Anyway, so you see, this is how sometimes, and one answer I'll give of record survival. We were trying to find the records of 1946 when Nehru became the President of Congress. We had long discussions.
29th April 1946.
46. We had long discussions. He had tried his best, but he encouraged me. He said, "Bhai, tum bhi dekh lo, mujhe to nahi mil paya tha." And what I did, we went to the miscellaneous files of AICC. And the scholar who was asking me, she said, "Sir, miscellaneous में क्या मिलेगा जब subject files में नहीं मिला तो?" मैंने कहा, बेटा जिसने भी ये फाइल्स डिस्ट्रॉय की हैं, उसका ध्यान miscellaneous में कुछ होगा तो डिस्ट्रॉय करने में नहीं गया होगा. And we discovered 3 documents in the miscellaneous files. One Sajjad Ahmad's press release. The 5 names have come. What happened inside still is a mystery. But 5 names have come. And these are Patel, Subhash Chandra Bose in 46, Jayaprakash Narayan, Kriplani, and Nehru.
You see, that always happens when I
we
was
are able to discover that.
when I was doing this, my book Secular Politics, Communal Agenda. In 2003, I was looking for minutes of the Congress and the nomination elections. That's what I was looking at. Nomination was done, and then scrutiny was done, and then declared. I could not find anywhere, and we started to see. हमका यार तुम देख लो, हम मिले तो बताना. He rightly did miscellaneous file में देखो, क्योंकि ट्रेनिंग जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की होती है वो अपनी जगह जाती है. There is always one file called guard file. अपॉइंटमेंट किसका हुआ डायरेक्टर का कहीं नहीं मिलेगा, गार्ड फाइल में मिल जाएगा. कौन किस दिन ज्वाइन किया, गार्ड फाइल. तो ही डिड ग्रेट थिंग. एनीवे, एनीबडी एल्स, आई थिंक देयर आर पीपल. प्रोफेसर Panda is sitting there for a long time. I'm sure that he has got something in his mind, being expert on Japan and Far East, and anybody else if there is. Okay.
क्योंकि कपिल जी का वक्तव्य सवाल वाला वक्तव्य नहीं था, एक तरह से री इन्वेंट करने का वक्तव्य था कि हम अपने अतीत में जाएं, इतिहास को देखें. तो ये बात भी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है कि जब डोमिनियन स्टेट को लेके कांग्रेस आगे बढ़ रही थी तो नेताजी की चेतावनी के बाद ही वो प्रस्ताव बदला गया था. ये भी महत्वपूर्ण है. अब इस पर तो मैं अलग से कपिल जी से बात करूंगा कि बेबल को कौन सी चिट्ठी गांधी जी ने लिखी थी जिस आधार पर आईएनए के बंदियों को आजीवन कारावास.
सर दोनों लेटर
हैं?
आज से पब्लिश्ड है दोनों लेटर.
नहीं, वो हमने नहीं देखा है, हमने देखा नहीं है. और
interest in this area, and I have decided to do micro. It's not a question, that's an observation. It's only an observation. Just asking to guide. Please be in touch with me. I'll definitely be able to tell you a lot, sources and all. Swati, I'll be able to give you a lot of things on that.
Best thing is that you remain in touch with Professor Kapil Kumar. There is no question now.
एक बात मैं कहना चाह रहा था, सिर्फ एक बात. और अगर कपिल जी की जो किताब आएगी उसमें अगर इस पे भी डिस्कशन हो और कुछ तथ्यों से बातें सामने आए कि उनकी प्रेरणा से, उनके प्रभाव से नेताजी के, तो एक तरफ फॉरवर्ड ब्लॉक है, दूसरी तरफ आरएसपी, रेवोल्यूशनरी सोशलिस्ट पार्टी, दोनों जो संगठन हैं वो उनकी प्रेरणा से चलते हैं. लेकिन जो उनका वैचारिक पक्ष है वो पक्ष तो वाम मार्गी है और उनका अलायन भी सीपीएम सीपीआई से ही होता रहा है.
देखिए फॉरवर्ड ब्लॉक नेताजी का और जो बाद का फॉरवर्ड ब्लॉक है उसमें जमीन आसमान का अंतर है. 1942 और 45 तक के फॉरवर्ड ब्लॉक को आप आज के फॉरवर्ड ब्लॉक से मत देखो.
Can we now close it with your permission? Before that, 2 things should be remembered. That research is ongoing process, unending. What you can do is what is known till today. You cannot say this is all known. No, there is nothing like all known. You can always preface it that this is known till today. What happens tomorrow? Nobody knows. Because, as Meenakshi ji was asking, how it survived. Blissfully ignorant people were handling files and it survived. Always the best plans, many times always the best plans fail to produce any result, and suddenly accidentally something comes up which changes the whole perspective. Professor Kapil Kumar has done wonderful thing, and again I will, because I had abruptly closed the question of discussion, I apologize for that, but I will tell you, when it comes to legality, when it comes to constitutionally, things are not done as per practice. No, things are done as per law. Prime Minister today is obliged to get the approval of President of India, because from the Constitution he is the ultimate authority. Prime Minister does not have his own power, even a single thing. He acts, remember this, he acts on behalf of President of India. He does not have power even to draw 1 rupee or to take even appointed pew. It is in the name of President, number one. And the same was the status when Dominion status was given. Queen was the ultimate power till 26th January 1950.
No. The Emperor George VI abdicated his throne on 22nd June 1948.
No, but Queen remained till, what I'm saying is,
48.
And what happens is, Queen remains the ultimate power till 20th January 1950, when your constitution comes in, and then President takes over. And that is why till that date, you don't have President, you have Governor General. Anyway, with these words, Kapil, I take the liberty of calling you by first name, because that's what I have done for the last 30 years. It's a wonderful lecture, and I'm so happy that I could chair it. And thank you again. And I'm sure that many of the listeners, many of the young people sitting here, they will be contacting you and doing some more research on the issue, because more and more research is done, more and more haziness will go, much more clarity will come up. With these words, I thank you on behalf of all these people sitting here and my own behalf. Thank you very much.